The Last Ride Through Route 66, written by Jonathan Molina Sr. Jon and Nikki had been together for 30 years, their love growing stronger with every season that passed. Now, as they drove down Route 66 on their way to visit their 5 kids in college, the road stretched before them like an endless ribbon of memories, laughter, and quiet moments shared between the two. The golden hues of the setting sun bathed the vast countryside in a warm glow, and Jon's hand rested on the steering wheel while Nikki reached over to hold his free hand. "I can't wait to see the kids," Nikki smiled, her eyes sparkling. "It feels like forever since we've all been together." Jon chuckled, his eyes soft with love. "Yeah, me too. It'll be good to have everyone under one roof again." The road was quiet, mostly deserted except for a few passing cars. Then, as they rounded a bend, something caught Nikki's attention in the rearview mirror. "Jon, there's a truck behind us. It's been following us for a while now." Jon glanced in the rearview and frowned. Behind them, a rusted, battered truck loomed closer. It was an old model, seemingly out of place on the empty road. The truck's headlights flickered, and for a brief moment, Jon thought he saw something wrong in the way the truck moved. It swerved slightly, then sped up, almost tailgating them. "It's probably just some guy in a hurry," Jon said, trying to sound reassuring, but Nikki could hear the tension in his voice. For the next several miles, the truck remained behind them, keeping pace, never overtaking, never falling back. The sun had dipped below the horizon now, and the dark shadows of night began to creep across the road. Nikki's grip on Jon's hand tightened. "Something doesn't feel right. Maybe we should pull over and let them pass?" Jon nodded, guiding the car to the side of the road. He flicked on the hazard lights, expecting the truck to pass by. But it didn't. Instead, it pulled over behind them, its headlights still on, illuminating their car with an eerie glow. "Stay in the car," Jon said, his voice firm, but Nikki could see the worry in his eyes. He stepped out, his breath visible in the cool night air. As he approached the truck, its engine growled to life, and it surged forward. Jon barely jumped out of the way as the truck swerved back onto the road, tires screeching, and sped off into the night. Jon rushed back to the car, his heart pounding. "We're getting out of here," he said, starting the engine and pulling back onto the road. But the truck didn't stay gone for long. Minutes later, they saw its headlights behind them again, this time speeding closer, almost barreling down on them. Jon floored the gas pedal, trying to outrun it, but the truck was relentless. "What does he want?" Nikki cried, her voice trembling with fear. "I don't know," Jon shouted back, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. The truck rammed into their car, sending it lurching forward. Jon fought to control the vehicle as it swerved dangerously across the narrow road. Another hard hit from behind, and the car careened off the asphalt, crashing into a ditch. Airbags deployed. The sound of metal crunching filled the air. Nikki groaned, her head throbbing from the impact, but Jon quickly checked to make sure she was all right. "Nikki, stay with me. We need to get out of here," Jon said, his voice shaky but determined. But before they could unbuckle their seat belts, the sound of heavy footsteps approached. Jon turned to see a figure stepping out of the truck, silhouetted by its headlights. The figure was tall, unnaturally so, with grotesque leathery wings that seemed to stretch out from its body. It wore a wide-brimmed hat, and its face, or what little they could see of it, was covered in dark, twisted skin. "Oh my God," Nikki whispered in horror. "The creeper." Jon knew what it was, even if he didn't want to believe it. He had heard the stories, the urban legends, but standing there now, the creature was very real, and its eyes, dark and hollow, were fixed on them. Jon fumbled to undo Nikki's seatbelt, his hands shaking. Go, run, I'll distract it. No, I'm not leaving you, Nikki cried, clutching his arm. But before either of them could move, the creeper was there. With inhuman strength, it ripped open the car door, dragging Jon out first. He fought, kicked, punched, but the creeper's strength was overwhelming. It threw Jon to the ground like a rag doll, turning its gaze to Nikki. Jon's vision blurred as he watched in helpless horror. He heard Nikki scream, saw her struggling as the creeper reached for her. No, Jon shouted, crawling toward them, desperate to protect her. But he was too weak, too broken. The last thing he saw was the creeper lifting Nikki into the air, her cries echoing into the night. And then, silence. The morning sun rose over the quiet road, its light casting long shadows across the wreckage. A few miles away, the children Jon and Nikki loved so dearly waited, unaware that their parents were never coming. In the cold, empty field beside the road, the creeper worked methodically, tearing apart what was left of Jon and Nikki's bodies, choosing which parts to take for itself. It didn't care about the love they shared, the life they had built together. To it, they were just pieces, flesh and bone to be repurposed. As the creeper finished its grisly task and disappeared into the horizon, all that remained were the broken bodies of a husband and wife who had loved each other until the very end.